Wow, this weather is about to get wild, folks. All in the next 7 days, we're going to be tracking a snowstorm up here into the Northeast this weekend, followed by a massive trough ejection that's going to be diving southbound. That's going to be kicking off a round of severe storms further to the south, which will include some tornadoes. Then to the north, that'll be kicking off yet another snowstorm. Then we'll be watching very cold air looking to build up here towards the Yukon into the Northwest Territories. That will be diving southbound late next week and kick off yet another snowstorm, followed by very bitter cold conditions entering the U.S. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. This channel is up to 223,000 subscribers. I put out a lot of content. In fact, I put out about 27 videos a month. So if you would like to follow along throughout the 2024 year, I'll be here almost on a daily basis. So subscribe to the channel so I can keep you well ahead of the storm. So let's really dive into this, folks. We got a lot to talk about. Let's first start off with our first snowstorm up into the Northeast. We've got a round of showers and thunderstorms highlighted further to the south within the warm sector, within the Atlanta region, back into Charlotte. But we are going to be seeing that change over to some of that ice, including into portions of North Carolina. But we are getting some snow this morning back here towards Illinois as well as into Ohio. But we have widespread winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings highlighted up the East Coast this weekend. Then next week will be yet following another snowstorm that's going to be diving southbound. We have yet another low pressure. They've actually already have winter storm watches in place that start Sunday night again for the Texas Panhandle heading up into Kansas, and that will be the beginning of yet another snowstorm. So let's talk about the first one first. Right now, we've got the sector coming up, and we do have some ice, within portions of North Carolina this morning. So it's going to be treacherous travel. That does include the Charlottesville region, but now this will be transferring over to snow. DC back into Philly. You're going to be on the borderline into Baltimore, but to the north of there, it's going to be all snowing in portions of Pennsylvania. And as this races up, I think New York City will likely get about an inch or two from this system. Philly, you're on the borderline. I think Baltimore as well as maybe DC will be missing out on this deal. But as you race up into the interior regions, that's where all the really heavy snow is going to be following. And some of this could be up to 8 to 12 inches. So I think Boston gets crushed with this system, likely 8 to 10 inches within that region. And this is going to be traversing up the coastline. So let's break down the details. This is the latest update. This is from the National Weather Service, folks. This is what they just put out over the next 48 hours with this snowstorm. And these snow totals have upped. They have upped the ante with this low pressure really starting to slow down once it gets up the coast of Nantucket here. And that's where the biggest totals are likely going to be. So you're likely going to be seeing a swath of easily 6 to 10 inches of snow within this pink sector. But once you get into this area up here towards Massachusetts and portions of Vermont and New Hampshire, you could be seeing some 15-inch totals up here. So that's going to be laying down a pretty significant snow. Some of these areas, the most significant snows they've seen in a very long time in some of these regions, because they really haven't seen that much snow, especially so far this season. But we got a lot of snow coming, folks. Trust me, this pattern is ripe. So let's talk about this second setup. So we've got this massive trough ejection that's going to be diving southbound. This is going to end the day on Sunday, heading into Monday. So by Sunday night, it turns negatively tilted. And when it does that, that's going to be diving this kind of this bowling ball type trough, diving in some colder air. This is not the Arctic air, but it's definitely cold enough. It's going to be snowing again into the Texas Panhandle, but you got the warm sector further south, and you have a lot of shear further south as well. So you've got the negatively tilted trough. So whenever you kind of see this dipping down like this and it turns, then you've got the upper level winds splitting at different heights. So that is the concern. So you've got two sectors. You've got the warm sector further south. They're going to be highlighted over East Texas and into South Texas and heading along the coast into the southeast and the deep south. That's where we're going to be having a lot of shear and unfortunately some severe storms. And yes, they do include some tornadoes. In fact, the latest wording from the Storm Prediction Center, they could include some strong tornadoes. So, but we've got heavy winds associated with it too. So we got the winter storm watches already in place for the Texas Panhandle. Look at the winds at the same time. Yeah, we could be talking blizzard-like conditions up there into the Texas Panhandle starting on Sunday night, heading into Monday. But then further south, we've got to be concerned about those severe storms because look at the winds at the lower levels. They're going to be splitting at different heights, and that's always a concern further south, especially with that negatively tilted trough moving inward. So we are going to be expecting severe storms highlighted across Victoria, back into the Houston Metroplex. And I think this is a nighttime event heading into Lake Charles, going into Louisiana, back into Mobile. They could lift as far north as southeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but especially heading into East Texas, up towards the Shreveport region, back into Jackson. This will extend into the Florida Panhandle, and this will continue. That's during the day on Monday, heading into the Monday night overnight time frame, as this will be traversing across as that low pressure center will be maximizing and starting to amplify itself. And as it does, we're going to be including more heavy rain across this region going to the daytime on Tuesday. But yes, more severe storms, and yes, these could include some tornadoes as well. Down here into central Florida, does include Sarasota, back into the Orlando region, into Gainesville, into the Tallahassee region, back into Santa Fe, into Columbia, all the way up into the east, into North Carolina. So where you drop that ice this morning, we've got to be concerned about severe storms by the time we head into that Tuesday timeframe of next week. But here's the cold sector, right? You got the cold sector side of this. So that you're going to have the snow breaking out where they've got the winter storm watches in place already. So by Monday night, the snow is going to be cranking up there in the Texas Panhandle again, and to western Oklahoma. Does include most of all of Kansas, and now that's going to be swinging into Missouri, and then there's that heavier rain and the severe storms further south. And as it continues to lift northeast, this low pressure will also be intensifying and will also include blizzard-like conditions as these winds are really starting to crank up in itself. 40, some 50 mile per hour wind gust with heavy snow falling back into Kansas again, and to northwestern portions of Missouri, but now it's getting into the Illinois region, getting into Indiana, as well as in Ohio, and up here towards Iowa, back into Minnesota, Wisconsin here, and as well as into Michigan, as this will continue to race up to the northeast. Then later in the day on Tuesday, there is the beginning stages of true Arctic air. We talked about this sudden stratospheric warming event where we got this massive spike in the Arctic. That's the displacement of the polar vortex. And now it's showing its cards, diving southbound and really starting to amplify up there towards the Yukon and the Northwest Territories. And this is going to be some significant cold that's going to be entering the United States late next week. But out ahead of it, we've got our own storm system that we've got to be concerned about, because this is going to continue to rapidly intensify. Now we're down to a 975 millibar low pressure, as these winds are going to be really starting to crank and really elevate as these also come up the East Coast. You've got the snow into the interior upper Midwest regions, and then on the East Coast, we've got more heavy rain going to be traversing across, and I'm definitely concerned about flooding, as this is going to be tapping into some deep tropical moisture down there into the Caribbean and then surging northeast. So you're going to have some very heavy rain. We're likely going to be seeing widespread flood watches draped across this region, as well as be concerned about those severe storms as well. And then you got the blizzard-like conditions over the Ohio Valley up here into the upper Midwest, with the snow really starting to crank and the low pressure center already starting to deepen, and then there's the snow will be starting to impact with that cold air coming in out British Columbia, out of Alberta here, out back into Saskatchewan. They're going to be included with some heavy snows by then, and that will be dropping into the Northwest, back into Washington and Oregon, then the heavier rain across along the coastal area. So it's going to be busy, folks. So there's the snow system. On the back side is going to transfer all snow into Indiana, into Ohio. It likely could include further south into Kentucky, into portions of West Virginia, but it's all rain along the coast. And that's where I'm really concerned as we get into that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. So we got a blanket of snow. Some of these areas are going to get 8 to 12 inches of snow. That's not going to melt, folks, but it will melt once we hit the warm sector as we go into that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, because now up the East Coast, it's going to be just an all rain event, and flooding is going to be really maximized. You throw in another 2 to 4 inches of heavy rain along with that snow melt, you're talking you're talking a lot of flooding up here. We already are expecting they've already put out a moderate risk for excessive rainfall, does include New York up here into Bridgeport. This region is going to get clocked with very heavy rain. So definitely concerned about significant river flooding unfolding across this region. And that's not it. You've got high winds on top of it, folks. It's just going to be nasty up there into the Northeast, up here along the eastern seaboard. We're likely going to be seeing widespread power outages with these winds cranking 40, 50. And once you get up into the Northeast, likely 60 miles an hour wind gust, and could he not have been, not out of the question, could see some 70 mile per hour wind gust with the blizzard like conditions highlighted over the Ohio Valley and up here towards into the up here towards the mid-Atlantic region. But then there's the cold. By Thursday, there's the cold entering the picture. Now, these are actual air temperatures, folks. So this is the latest data as this true Arctic air is going to be plunging southbound. So we've got negatives. This area has seen so much warmer weather in December. This is going to be complete opposite. Get ready for true winter coming. It's going to come in with, what the vengeance up here into British Columbia, back into Alberta here, into Saskatchewan with 20, almost 30 degrees below zero temperatures. And that's going to be diving those negative numbers into Montana, into the Dakotas. But look at the leading edge of those single digits by Thursday, hitting Iowa again, and those single numbers hitting Kansas, along with yet another snowstorm. I mean, the Texas Panhandle doesn't get a break. They get yet another snowstorm highlighted going into that Tuesday night into Friday. So we'll be tracking this because see this ice right here? This is going to be some deep, shallow cold. That means a shallow cold. That's very low levels down to lower than 2,000 feet. So it's going to sink. Arctic air travels fast and it's dense and it sinks. So I am expecting this ice to probably likely shift southbound in the coming data as we get closer to this event. We're still 6 days off, but we are going to be seeing some heavy snows. But this time, this heavy snow gets blanketed over Oklahoma as this low pressure center will be maximizing and deepening itself. We've got heavy snows unfolding in Kansas as well as into the Oklahoma region. Again, this will likely shift a little bit further south. So don't say, hey, we're not going to get anything. It's just too soon to know, because I think this Arctic air is going to be traveling faster than what a lot of the global models pick it up right now. But yes, we'll be tracking yet another snowstorm and very significant Arctic air. They're going to be plunging southbound at the same time. These are temperatures as we plunge and see that Arctic air pressing southbound, likely into the 20 below zero heading into Friday afternoon. Those negative numbers dip all the way into Kansas below zero numbers, folks. This is heading into that plunging temperatures into Friday afternoon, single digits in Kansas, single digits starting to appear in Oklahoma. This is where the snow is going to be, right? You're going to be seeing snow and single digit temperatures in Oklahoma, folks. And that's going to be plunging the 20s into the Dallas-Fort Worth area as that Arctic air plunges southbound. But look where the teens are, into Missouri. Look where the 20s are, into Illinois, into the afternoon, and where all the heavy snow is going to be. Yeah, could be yet another blizzard-like conditions heading up across this region. So it's busy, folks. It is very busy. This pattern is amped. This El Nino is alive and well, and it's showing its true cards next week, and it's going to be leaving down a ton of snow in its wake. So we've got the heavy snow that's going to be draped across the Northeast, and then we've got 2 snowstorms highlighted across this region, and the European puts out a good swath of snow with a foot or 2 of snow along with the Arctic air. So it could be really treacherous, and some of this snow, once it falls, it could not be melting for an extended period of time because we've got true Arctic air diving southbound. But out ahead of it, there is all the very warm, the warmer air and the heavier rain. So yes, I am concerned, very concerned about flooding up here into the southeast and especially up to the northeast, compounding with that snow melt that's going to unfold across this region, along with the heavy rain that we'll be picking up on that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. And then we also have some heavy rain that's going to be dropping across the west coast, and a lot of this are up here. This is going to be in the form of snow. So there's the Arctic air and the true Arctic air once we go into next Saturday morning. This is wind chills, what it's going to feel like by next Saturday morning, and this is all going to be 50 and almost 60 below zero, feels like, up here into Alberta, into Saskatchewan, back into Manitoba. And those feels like numbers will be diving southbound. Look at some of those underneath that snowpack in Colorado. Some of those mountain regions could approach 60 below zero, feels like. This could be some dangerous stuff, folks, as 30 belows start entering Kansas. 15 below feels like in the Oklahoma City region. Yes, you could be pressing down to 0 degrees into the Dallas-Fort Worth area as far as it feels like to the body, as that true Arctic air continues to plunge southbound. So what's likely going to happen as we expand the view, and this is getting way beyond, but this is going to be plunging all the way down into the deep south and then be slingshotted off to the east. So just because you live in the east, don't feel you're going to miss out on this Arctic air. It's going to be heading your way. It's just you get it second fold. But this Arctic air looks to stay around a while. And whatever snow is going to be unfolding in the next next week, it's not going to be melting for an extended period of time. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update while I protect you before and after the storm.